Mary Ann Sampson is a book artist living and working in North Alabama. She specializes in miniature and broadside books. Sampson received her BA in Spanish and art from Stanford University and has an MFA in book arts from the University of Alabama. She is drawn to performance and theater and was so at an early age, which has a common theme and subject in her artistic work as an adult. She's fascinated by the persona and the mobility of puppets, and her body of work, Puppets and Poetry, she's asked the audience to share her curiosity and interest. Sampson's books have included works with James C. Brown, Sue Brannon Walker, Jeff Weddle, and she continues to work on unique books as she has throughout her career. Her works have been exhibited and collected internationally. She's an active member of the Guild of Book Workers and the founder of One Eye Opera Company. You're amazing, Mary Ann. Okay, and now for Holland. Holland is a sound and media artist, composer, and improviser. His recent exhibits include the Southern Sonic Sound Art Festival at the Contemporary Arts Center in New Orleans, the Automated exhibit in the Fringe Arts Festival in Bath, UK, and Art as Message at the Chong Institute for Contemporary Art in Korea. Holland's long-form performance work for Invented Instruments, Birds of Passage in an Egg-Shaped World was premiered in 2021 at the California Institute for the Arts. His recent collaborations include works with book artist Sarah Bryant, which you can see at WMA right now, field recordings of Mind and Mourning with poet Hank Laser. So with that being said, we're going to go on ahead. I'm going to share my screen and show everyone the book or the piece that can be seen in the biennial. So just give me 1 second. And then Holland, if you want to, after I share my screen, if you just want to tell us about this piece. Can everyone see it?
Sure, looks good. Thanks so much for inviting me to participate, Holly. I'm really looking forward to talking more with Mary Ann. Sarah Bryant sends her regrets. She wanted to be here for this event, but she's traveling. And so I'm the non-book artist who gets to talk about book art. This work is truly a collaboration, and it came out of a program at the University of Alabama called CARI, which stands for the Collaborative Arts Research Initiative. Sarah and I were both fellows of CARI, and the idea is to bring people together and encourage collaborations across disciplines. So for a long time, I've been making scores, and they often don't look like what you think of in terms of a musical score. Sometimes they can have a graphic element to them, or have some sort of shapes involved, or just be arranged in a circle or something like that. And I've also been playing around with making my own instruments, like the wooden bull roarer you see in the picture here. So Sarah and I started talking. What would it be like if the instrument and the score were all together and like a package and like a book, so that you could take it off the shelf and open it up and make something? And so that's what we did. And the way this is really so much, I'm so indebted to Sarah, not just for the production of it, but really for guidance and thinking through all the user experience of how it works. There's 3 pockets, and in the pockets are these little cards, and you get to assemble the cards on the sort of screen that's folded on the right side of the picture, and that becomes the score for how you perform the piece. And then you take the bull roarer and you swing it around in circles over your head. Try not to hit anything or anyone. And the instructions tell you what these symbols mean as you swing it around. So That's the piece that we made together. It's really the first time we've done anything together, and it was such a positive experience. She was just a great, great collaborator, and we had tons of fun. And we're so happy that it was included in the biennial at Wiregrass.
Do you have a picture of the closed, how compact this becomes?
Well, I happen to have one right here.
When it opens up.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And Sarah used the instrument itself to make the print. And so there's a sleeve, and then which has the title on it. And then when you take the sleeve off, you see the information. Then it all opens up like we've just seen. So.
And is there an edition of 45 that I
45,
that right?
That's correct. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Well, I'm going to pop out of this conversation, but before I do, I wanted to let all of our attendees know that we will have a Q&A when we finish. So if a question pops up during the conversation, feel free just to go ahead and queue it up, and we will get to that whenever Holland and Mary Ann are finished. All right, y'all.
Great.
I'm out of here.
Thank you, Holly. So Mary Ann, I'm at your mercy because I'm not a book artist, but it was such a thrill to meet you, such a pleasure to meet you at the opening and to see your work. And so I'm interested to hear more about where it comes from and what you're thinking about right now. Let's start with where it comes from. Tell me about books. What interests you about books?
To me, they're probably one of the most important things we can have, because it opens the whole world up to you. I mean, it always has. If you've got books, and I have a lot of books. I lost a lot of books during the tornado. It's amazing. Several of the whole group from Tuscaloosa came up and helped me pack them up and throw them away, because art books just are too slick. They're made with clay in their paper. And so I really hated to get rid of all those books, but they were no good once the pages had stuck together. But that's beside the point. I enjoy it. Amazon is a critical point in my life, because you could just click in and get whatever you want, whatever subject you want. You don't even have to go to the library anymore.
Yes, though I love going to the library. The smell of the books and being able to browse the shelves gives you a different sort of experience, I think, than looking online.
Yeah,
so
it does.
When did you start thinking about books as art objects, right? I mean, they contain works of art, poetry or novels, all sorts of great information. But when did you start thinking of them like this could be an artwork itself?
It was sometime during the 80s. I had artist friends who were in CCAC performance with their art in Richmond, Virginia. And so I went up there with several others to see their work and to be a part of that. And someone was taking down a book art show. I had never seen book arts. I'd never heard of them. And I was just fascinated by them. And it blew my mind. I thought, this is it. This is the answer to what my dilemma, and how can I integrate lots of things together. And the book itself seems to demand that you have a cover, and you can do things out there. You can use paint, you can use printed stuff. I mean, it was limitless, I thought. And I started pursuing it at that time, getting information, which there was not much available. There weren't many places in this country to go and study, except enrolling for a period of time at the university. And Philadelphia had one, and Chicago. And you could go for short-term workshops, which I did. I went up to Rochester and took a conceptual book arts with Keith Smith. And so that was my first experience with it. The next time I went to Penland and worked with Tim Ely, who brought it in on a different level. He was more of about what I was looking for, is how to physically attempt and put your subject matter into a book form, and as well as sewing it together, making it look like a book. So from then on, anytime there was a workshop around the country, I would go, and that's how I accumulated my knowledge and started making my own books. And it was with Tim Ely's that we had to do a book that I started working with what I call string men. The first book I ever did was called String Men, and they were puppets, actually. I like the concept of the line that can flow through infinity, really. So that's how I got my start.
So there's so much there already. I definitely, we're coming back to the puppets. But just in case there are any, real book arts fans tuning in, and I'm sure there are, I'm interested more in sort of what did Ely and others teach you about techniques? Like, what are the techniques that you feel like are your ways of approaching the book? You describe it as something that allows you to put lots of things in, and looking at your work, it's very clear that you put lots of things in. So what are the techniques that you come back to for that?
Primarily the pencil, which is one of the simplest tools you can have. I keep a lot of pencils around. Yesterday, I installed a pencil trimmer in my little workspace at home, and I'm hoping that's going to help me. The little one that you hold with your hand just wasn't doing it for me. But papers, I've learned a lot about the manufacture of papers and how they respond to the pencil. I've also worked with cutting liner cuts and printing those. And you have to do a lot of planning when you're doing all of these books, because it's page after page, and you have to, you're concerned with the imagery rubbing off onto another sheet of paper. And those are little things you learn gradually. And at some point, I realized I needed more knowledge about actually working with words in a book, and also different ways of holding the book together, sewing it together. And that was when I decided, well, I'm going to go on down to Tuscaloosa and enroll in the program down there, which was a 3-year commitment just to do that. So I did. And I haven't been sorry since. And then I began to edition work.
Right.
Point.
So I'm struck by you talk about how much planning is involved, especially when there's printmaking. And I'm experienced that working with Sarah on our project. Lots of measuring and thinking and putting together mock-ups, and I loved working that way.
Yeah.
When we go and look at your work at the gallery, there's also seems like a prominent element of improvisation and play with the way that you make your books. So what's this? Yes, there is. Good. So what's this balance between planning and just trying things out, playing?
Well, books that have words in them and they belong to somebody else, usually. That's the way I like to collaborate. I plan an awful lot, and I may be one of the slowest printers going. I could never have made it on a newspaper staff at all, where I had to be in the printing team. But that takes a lot of plans, and I learned a lot about that when I was down in Tuscaloosa. However, when I do my unique books, they're slow, but I have a plan mentally. I don't plan it out in advance. I like to leave things open to chance and what you might discover from your drawings and materials. That's just the way I work.
I remember when I met you at the opening, you said something about something like just drawing something, just letting it happen, but on good paper.
Oh, yeah.
And I like that. And I
spend all that time working, it might as well be good paper.
It might as well be good paper. Yeah. And I think I have a sense of what that feels like, you know, when the heft of paper and the way that it has a grain and you can sort of bend it in one direction. And so I get that tactile. Is that part of what you mean by good paper?
Well, good paper is that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you want it to last.
Right.
Lifetime. I mean,
right.
Cold press and hot press papers all respond differently, and you got to learn and only by trying can you learn the quality of papers. I'm thrilled right now with Reeves BFK. I've always used tan and gray BFK, and I've discovered white BFK, and it's getting hard to find. I guess COVID has caused a lot of that. I mean, there's several places that you can't get it right now, and that's affected. It's made in France, and so that's probably the reason. Is it's not getting over here
right
as readily as it once was.
I wonder if there's an element of performance involved too when you have a really nice piece of paper, right? Like does that kind of up the game a little bit for what you want to do with it?
Of course.
Uh-huh.
When you're paying $6 and $7 for a sheet of paper, you're more careful.
Yeah.
How you tear.
Let's take a look. I want to share the screen and just look at some things on your website. Can we see this?
That's not in the Wiregrass. Those are.
No, yes. I wanted to find one of the puppets that's in the Wiregrass, right?
Keep going.
Here.
Yes.
Is this one of the puppet books? Now, is this similar to what you made for your very first book?
No.
No, okay.
Some exploring before and reading before I knew about the puppet that's hanging there.
Right. Yeah.
There you are.
Okay.
It took a while before in my reading I read about the prayer books of in Oriental cultures.
Right.
And that came out of that.
I wanted to look at this. This is a cyanotype, is that right?
Yes.
Is this in the show also?
I think it is. Yeah, I did a whole window just
Okay.
in cyanotypes. I just started working with imagery and cyanotypes.
Yeah.
And let's see.
I was interested in this one because it seems like this is an example of improvisation.
It is.
You know, when you make a cyanotype, you're making a photograph directly on paper. And then there's the way that you've detailed it here with more text. And could you just talk, do you remember this process, how that worked?
I have a good white pen. You see all that little squiggly stuff inside that
Right.
That shape? That's a white pen writing.
Yes.
And the little seed type structures up there.
Right.
Inside this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
See, I would probably, I can't tell you right off the bat whether I did that on a whole sheet, 20 by 30 inch piece of paper or not. Sometimes it's better to work abstractly on a large sheet of paper and then tear it down, and then begin to work seriously, because you're much looser if you've got a great big sheet of paper, and
right.
And then tear it down and see in a smaller format, it's going to tell you something differently than it did in a big format.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to find a piece that the puppet certainly deals with performance. There's a lot of your work that seems like it has to do with theater, and the name of your press, the One Eye Opera Company. There's opera reference there. Is there something that you could point to that would help with that connection? Well, maybe some of the drawings.
Oh.
This is like a stage right here.
Yeah, it is. And that book, the characters in the background are made from found objects. And the book itself, I used Tyvek for the cover. I tore off the cover after I made it. I wanted that effect. And it's in a found box. This piece grew a lot over the years. It depended on what I found on the beach or somewhere. But there's some singing going on there, and inside the book. But anyway, getting back to the cover, I was working with Tyvek, which is a lot of your envelopes are made of that. And I tore that back and exposed. And this was already destined at that time when I tore it up. I was taking a chance because it was already destined to be in a show.
Oh.
So I was hoping that it would work, and it did. I was pleased with it.
There's your balance of risk-taking versus planning.
Yes.
There. Nice. So what about your personal history is the connection with the theater? Did you sing or dance or perform, or are you a fan? Like, why is this a theme that comes up in your work?
We lived across from, when I grew up, we lived across from the school, and the front porch, and we were fenced in. My father had built a fence around the front yard so we couldn't get out, and we learned easily how to get out. But anyhow, when school got out, my sisters and I would dress up in clothing and put on a play for people. Let them in the gate that we had an audience. And we did that for years. And I did that also with my cousins down in the country. We would hang up bed sheets, and that would be the curtain, and we would perform all day long, just make up plays. And we would do it at night. We would make up plays. We had a great time doing that. As far as singing, I'm still singing. I'm joining a community choir in Birmingham, and we'll start next Monday. I've been taking voice lessons for 3 years now, so I enjoy singing.
And then these interests find their way into the books that you make.
Yes. I think so. Yeah. This is I call it a theater book, but it's actually in the parlance of book people, it's a tonal book, because there are accordion folds on each side of the stage there, and you inset your scenes along into the folds, so that they overlap. and you build it that way.
It-
It's a fun structure to make.
It's very theatrical. It has a kind of puppet, like
Yeah.
shoebox puppetry,
Mm-hmm.
but with amazing textures and colors, and just the quality of the shapes, and it's really so much fun to look at this and so many of your other pieces. Here's one of the, is this drawing in the show? I don't remember this one there. No, okay.
It's a huge drawing.
Right.
That's the show right there.
This is in the show. Yes, I definitely remember this one.
Yeah. And this is what I mean about working with you. This is all handmade paper. The sling that he is sitting on. I made the structure that he's confined to.
Right.
And the book that he's holding, and it has a bird mask on top, and a little book. And the books that he's sitting on were books made by my students at that time.
Oh,
I
wow.
had kindergarten up to about the 7th grade, and we sat at one of those little tables that you see. Some guys, their legs would go up almost to their chin. It was so short and chairs, but we had a good time. And I did actually the structures of them, but whatever we could teach in that little space went into those books. And then, because I knew what the final product was going to be, they didn't have to learn how to sew it together and that kind of thing. But each one is individualized with I took photographs, ran it through the copier, then they painted it. A lot of variety. Things that came out of their lives are in the book.
That's great. It's nice to hear some of the stories behind these. I'm gonna bring it back to our faces. So that the audience can see you. I'm interested in this hanging book form because you're doing a workshop on that. We saw a couple of examples of that. That's a prayer book.
It's a prayer book. Pam, you get it. I'm going to bring it up closer. I can't.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
I made a box for it. Anyhow, there is an image on the front of this. And it's sewn. It's a simple structure to do. And of course, it's has imagery on both sides of the pages. It closes down like that. Originally, these were done on leaves of palm, scratched with the sutras or prayers, and then smoked so they could be read.
So inscribed directly into the leaf itself. And what are you?
You've done that at some time in your life.
Sure.
The inventions of humanity are just wonderful.
Yeah.
But
what did you make that one out of?
Paper.
Yeah.
Good quality paper, and it's painted with, it's done with crayons. I mean, acrylic pencils. Yeah. And probably crochet thread, because I use a lot of that for this rather than linen thread. Usually I use linen on the
And you made the box out of book board?
Yeah, some book board probably. I can't remember. This has been done a long time ago.
Right.
And uh, just, it's a simple binder. We're not going to do that in the workshop. If any of you are thinking we're going to make, I've got a surprise for you on what the subject matter will be.
Right.
Anyway, the one that you will be making in the workshop will be fun. It will be your sample, and then you have to go home and make something more serious.
Mm-hmm. Can you hold the book itself up so we can see a little bit of the work on the painting and on the paper itself? The structure is really clear, but yeah, that's it. That's much better, right? Yeah, now we can see all the. That's great.
It takes some doing to open it up.
Uh-huh.
It's a rather colorful piece, and see, this was done in one sheet of paper and then cut to size.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a really nice Rolodex you have there, Mary Ann.
Oh my.
The phone numbers of all your important people are inside
all
that.
the important people are here.
That's right. I like it. That's really great. So we're coming up on time for this event, but I'm interested in, I've been asking all the questions. That's kind of been my role here, but maybe I missed something, right? What do we need to know about you and your work?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would love to have you at my studio. I can talk better in there. I did bring some books with me today.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, why don't you, let's look at them.
And I thought I brought mostly the unique one-of-a-kind books.
Mm-hmm.
These are not in the show.
I wish you'd led with that. We would have been.
Let me do lesson number 6.
Okay, great. Now we're finally getting to the real main attraction here. Okay, tell us about it.
Well, doesn't have any embellishments other than a dragonfly and some ants on the front. And I found an old computer something that I glued to the front. And these are just raw binders boards. Mm-hmm. And on the back are the symbols that you use for your hands. And on the spine is exposed. And I love leaving the colorful paper clips in there. And I don't know why I call this lesson 6, but it is what it is. And it's filled with drawings.
There's your pencil that you were talking about.
Pencil, yeah.
Right?
It's always accessible. As for some reason in my compositions, I like to oppose one side with the smaller. Because they're viewed together. Let's see. Sometimes I use parts of another book in there. I just saw that. I don't know, old newspaper things in there. Now I'll show you some of the others. One of the things I like to do are cutting out negative spaces. I'll do the book totally and then go back and remove some of the space. And this gives you, this allows light to come in. It changes the whole aspect. And then on this book, I cut down to shape. I shaped it after I finished it.
So the edges of the pages each have a unique shape.
And I found this beautiful, beautiful, you cannot notice this. Somewhere we ordered, this was when I was doing some teaching, and we found this beautiful fabric from a company out, I think in the West Coast, but I love it. And I like to use this particular open Coptic stitching. And the reason I do is it allows you to open the book up and lay it flat. And it's a lot easier than a particular, a Western codex allows you to do. It's not as any constraining there in the spine. The spine's an important part of your work. When I went to Japan a few years ago, these are painted paste papers, and then gone back in with crayons after things later. But these are just little, it's a colorful trip to Japan. And it has some tags in there, some cutouts again, and sewing onto the paper. It's hard for me to see from behind. I love orange and green together. It's cheerful. It's really cheerful. So, and there are little drawings all throughout here. You still want to look?
Yes, that's amazing. I would look at that for the rest of the day.
One of my thesis people now this is a printed book, letterpress printed, poetry of Dorothy Field, who lives in Vancouver. And she lived out, she was a farmer. She and her husband were farmers at the time. And she's now living in, I think, Victoria. And this is one of the different title books. I don't know how many different, maybe 10 or 15 different bindings of her work. And this is, these are double boards cut out in the board with some of the drawings, prints from inside. Leather straps across here. This also opens up flat. It's a variation on the Coptic stitch. And poetry inside. I particularly like her poetry. And let's see. This is the cover sheet. Let's see. Okay.
It's beautiful.
Another little book I put together.
Yeah, and we see the small image on one side and a larger on the other.
Right, right. This is actually a reductive liner cut that I did of Henny Penny's Lovers. And I just kept reducing it down till I got this little teeny tiny stamp. And I like it, you know. The original's not too big either, but it's a variety of things. And I love doing books that are just off the cuff of, you know, I can work on them for days and they don't have a theme. It's called Redux. And there, a lot of them are from my sketchbooks, redoing them. That's why I called it that. Usually I paint the covers. Sometimes I'll put my own paste papers that are painted on there as well. Is that it? let me show this little thing. And I did a workshop in Indiana at St. Meinrad this summer. Had a wonderful time up there learning new things from Laurie Doctor. And this is a handmade case and it was made, no glue, anything involved. And we were working on Etruscan letters. She's evolving some system to the Etruscan letters, which not quite like our alphabet. And then inside, we made a book, a sketchbook, and I had brought along this cyanotype, and she felt like I should use it in the cover. And I'm working on this now. Would you look at the, I don't have it.
I've got it.
That looks
These
good.
are weavings. Now I'm going to weave in between each one of these some linen threads. It takes, this is actually pamphlet stitch, and it's an easy way to put together a book. But what makes it so interesting is this weaving once you get through. So I love that.
And what's the name of
Always
that book?
something to learn. Yeah.
Always something to learn.
Always something to learn. Always new people to meet too. Okay.
Yes. That's so great.
Have I answered your question?
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah. And I think ending on the always new people to meet is a good way to end. It's been such a pleasure, just a happenstance that we're in the same building for that opening, and that now we get to share this time together. And it's really great to learn more about your work.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure talking to you, Mary Ann. Thanks for spending time with us today.
Thank you, Holland.
Yeah. This was great. I think there might be some questions from the audience.
All right. If anyone has any questions, you can type them in the chat box or in our Q&A box. So we can wait on that. But yeah, we did really dig into a lot of, I don't know what questions would be left. Mary Ann, what's the piece with the like pop-up looking on the top right corner? Yeah, what is that? Oh, okay, I see.
It's just a little accordion book done with a bow. I like.
Now, when did you make that one?
Making. Oh gosh,
it's been a while.
Yeah, I think so. I'm really bad about not dating anything. You know, if anything survives of mine, I want you to really have to search for it. Do your PhD work hard for it, because I work hard. Oh, so there may be a date, but golly, who knows? I like to work with chaos. Says 95.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about chaos, like if you hold that up, is it from a scribble that then got developed into a drawing, or I mean, part of that is not chaotic. It's very ordered with the diagonal lines. So where's the chaos here? I'm not saying it's not there, because I think I see it. I just want to hear you tell me about it.
Well, I do lay down a geometric type format for this, and it looks like these are triangles. Most of it is a triangle. And then I've done a lot of drawings this way early on, and they're complicated. And I'll limit my palette to maybe 3 colors, and the juxtaposing of one, and these are usually characters in there.
Right.
And so that you get positives and negatives and colors. I try not so that you can see the image, but they butt right up to a wall, which is that line that's there, but it's fairly invisible because the shapes themselves flow with the line. Does that make sense?
I think so. Hold it up so we can see it. And so when you drew this, there wasn't a lot of forethought about which shape was going to go where. It was more.
No,
you just put things down on the page and then right.
I work really, that is first, is to get your actual idea down.
Right.
And some of these were really big drawings. They're not in the exhibit there, but they're very big.
And
I liked working this.
Yeah. And the colors are pencil.
They're all pencil, yeah.
Wow. Yes.
There are alligators in there. There are people. There are birds. They're amorphic things. They're hollering, screaming, carry on. They're this shape. I like doing that with the body. It's kind of like in dancing, some of the contemporary dancing,
Right.
It's fascinating what can be done with the body. I just can do it with pencil and not my body.
Well, I'm not seeing any questions here. So I think, Holland, you covered that.
Or scared them away.
Well. Yeah. Well, thanks to both of you for giving us your time tonight. And thanks everyone for attending. It's been a pleasure. And I guess is there anything else that either one of you want to say before we say goodbye?
Thanks. This was fun.
It was. Thank you, Holland. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Mary Ann and Holly.
All right. Well, everyone have a wonderful night and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.